Welcome to another edition of Finish First. This is Judge Dawson. Today we are going back to the book called The Cycle Breaker so that we can break down and decompose some of these principles that will lead you to your best life and most importantly, a life that is free of unnecessary contact with the legal system. We know that we can't stop every single interaction, but it's the ones that you can control that I want you to control. As a judge, I love what I do. I love being on the bench, but more than that, I would prefer that many of us just avoid the legal system altogether. But when that's not avoidable, we have tools and techniques to help you navigate through the legal system. Part of those techniques is the Cycle Breaker program that I've created. Now, if you remember, I always go over this every time we start. What are the elements of being a cycle breaker? So important. All right, step number one is that you have to recognize the need to break a cycle. It's really simple. In order to be the best that you can be, in order to move to a new level of success, you have to first realize that you need to do it, that you need to get there, or that you need to stop whatever it is that is going on in your life or in your circle. So, in order to be a cycle breaker, you have to recognize the need to break a cycle. Maybe that is the cycle of not going to college. Maybe you will be the first person in your family to go to college. Maybe that's the cycle of not graduating from high school. Maybe it's time for you to be the first person in your family to graduate from high school. It could be something more serious. Maybe it's domestic violence. Maybe you've grown up in a home where you saw domestic violence on the regular basis. You watched your family get abused mentally, physically, spiritually, and now you want to break that cycle. But I'm here to tell you that once you experience a cycle over and over again, it is difficult to break it. And that's why we need these tools and techniques in place so that you can break the cycle. So, the first step of being a cycle breaker is to recognize the need to break the cycle. Number two is once you recognize the need to break the cycle, now you have to make a commitment. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to stick through the times that get hard, stick with it when people are discouraging you? That is all based on making a commitment. And see, the challenge that we have as everyday people is that we commit to so much on the regular basis. We commit to our family, we commit to going a certain place, we commit to doing a certain thing. We're going to stop smoking, we're going to start working out. So we're very familiar with commitment. The question is, are we going to commit to the extent that helps us move our life to the next level? Because that's not what we're doing. We're not committing to the point that we are moving our lives to the next level. So, in order to break any cycle, you have to get serious about committing to breaking that cycle. And then the third step, after you have recognized the need to break a cycle, after you have committed to breaking the cycle, now you have to get the tools that are necessary to break the cycle. See, we all think we know it all. We think that we can do it all, but in reality, you need some type of help. I need some type of help. So we have to figure out what are the tools that will help me get to the next level. Those tools can present themselves in the form of a mentor. Maybe it's somebody that you can talk to about the goals that you have or the aspirations that you have. Maybe that mentor can be the person that can help you get to the next level. Maybe that tool will be education in some form. It could be formal education. It could be education from a webinar on YouTube. But the bottom line is you may have to get some additional education in order to get to the next level. So, what I'd like you to really focus on is not so much where you're getting the information from, who you're connecting to, if it is something positive and if it will lead you to achieving your goals. Those are the tools that you pursue so that you can break cycles. All right, so number one, recognize the need to break a cycle. Number two, commit to breaking the cycle. Number three, getting the tools necessary. And then number four, you have to develop grit. Grit is the ability to hang in there when the going gets tough. And we talked about that, right? Just a minute ago. What I mean by grit is this. When you say you're going to stop smoking weed, that's when everybody's going to offer you weed. When you say that you are going to stop going out to the club or stop arguing with your spouse or your significant other, that's when you're going to be tempted to move in those directions. But I'm telling you, you can do it if you say you're going to stick to it. I don't even mind that that rhymes. You can do it if you stick to it, but it's so true. If you employ grit and you tell yourself, no matter what, I am not going to quit, that is when you will be a cycle breaker. So, all right, we outlined the tools of being a cycle breaker. Recognize the need to break a cycle, commit to breaking the cycle, get the tools necessary to breaking the cycle, and then hanging in there when the going gets tough. Those are the four elements. And now we're ready to go right back into this book where we're talking about five young men who were on a journey of becoming cycle breakers, even when they didn't know it and even when they didn't want to. But that's what we're talking about. And we are going to review chapter 8, Entering the Cocoon. Let's go. All right, chapter 8, Enter the Cocoon. I'm going to read from the first page of this chapter, and throughout our discussions, we'll be reading from the book, and it's not going to take too much time because the chapters are not long. They are just packed with a lot of information and a lot of things to think about. So the seekers were in their room for the full night. Instead of going to the dining hall to eat, dinner was brought to the room. It was a four-course meal that seemed to never end. Plates kept coming and coming over a short period of time. Most of the seekers never experienced dining in this manner, so as soon as they thought their dinner was over, another portion came and it would come through the door. During dinner, the seekers talked about the camp. Fred asked, "Why do you really think we're here?" Fred was sure that this was some type of setup and that at some point they were going to be punished for all the bad things that they ever did in their lives. "I don't think so. I think we're here because Jay really wants to change us," Jeff said. And as he continued eating everything that he can get his hands on, Jeff had a habit of eating very fast, as if he was trying to make sure that all the food wouldn't be gobbled up by someone else. So let's pause right there. We are dealing with these young men who are now in a position where they are isolated in their room. When they first made it to the camp, a lot of time was spent eating and dining with all the other people, the staff, and Jay, who was the director of the camp or the person putting them through this experience. But now they're in their own area and they're dining in their cabin. So, as we begin the process of talking about entering the cocoon, I want to tell you right now where this is going. A lot of times, when you are trying to take your life to the next level, when you are trying to be better than you were or achieve some major goal, you may have to isolate yourself and separate yourself from what you're used to. Now, in this particular situation, because all these young men were here in the camp together, they're together in this room. But I would submit to you that you may want to isolate alone with your friends, alone with your family, alone with whoever is on your team at the time so that you can achieve your goals. So the takeaway from this moment is that as cycle breakers, we have to be willing and ready to enter a cocoon, a place where we will develop, where it's dark, where it's lonely. But when you come out on the other side, you will be a beautiful new creation. And that's what living in a cocoon is all about. It's all about you gathering the strength and the tools so that when you make it to the other side, you are able to be the best you can be. So we're talking about being cycle breakers and we're talking about entering the cocoon. Let's continue. They're talking about taking us out. They want to kill us. Now, Tony, eager to join in the conversation, said, "Not take us out like going outside to chill. I'm talking about trying to actually kill us." Jeff said, "Come on, that's ridiculous. We need to just relax and take advantage of the opportunity." "Opportunity? What opportunity?" Owen said as he lay back on his bed. "The opportunity to be here instead of being in jail, locked up, waiting to find out about our legal situations. And don't forget, we all came from jail, right?" Jeff said this as he laid down. Now, let's take a break. Because what we don't realize is that oftentimes when you are placed in a cocoon, when you are in a situation where you are isolated from the people you love and the things that you used to do, that can be pretty daunting, right? Your mind starts playing tricks on you. You start thinking that people are out to get you. You think that the world is against you. But here, you come to realize that it's not so much about it being against you, but the opportunity. So the takeaway from this section is that when you are forced to be alone, when you are forced to face your own demons and analyze what you've done wrong in your life and how to get to the next level, that is an opportunity. We need to stop looking at these situations that happen bad and stop saying that things have happened to us and instead say that they're happening for us. This is a prime example of how you can turn a bad situation into an opportunity for you to develop and you to grow. All right, back to the book. Surprisingly, the door opened and Jay walked back in. The seekers thought their lesson for the evening was done. He pulled a stool to the middle of the room and began to talk. The first thing he said was hurt people, hurt people. And some of the hurt comes from the cocoon. Jeff jumped in, being the early outspoken one in the group. What's all this talk about a cocoon? Well, that's what we're talking about right now. We're talking about when you are placed in a situation where you have to deal with the hurt and the pain. Because if you don't get that experience, if you don't get the opportunity to deal with the issues that you are facing, you will hurt people. Because there is truth to the statement that hurt people hurt people. So take advantage of these opportunities to be alone, to be in isolation, so that you can develop into the person that you want to be. And find the opportunity, find the golden nugget in every situation that's bad. And remember this quote: if you don't remember much else, things are not happening to you, but instead they're happening for you. So if we go back to the book, Jay described the cocoon as a way to birth, give birth, bring birth, or go through a birthing stage. So let's go back to the book. What do you mean by the birthing stage? Tony asked curiously. Everything that has ever been created was once a concept or an idea. That concept or idea was then birthed into existence. When people or things are being birthed, it's very fragile. It's a very fragile stage where one wrong move can cause destruction. After the birth, those early days of development are critical to survival. The same applies to what we are doing at Cycle Breaker Camp. We are birthing a new you with a new attitude and a new mentality. I know that this stage will be fragile with the possibility of destruction, and that's why I have you in a cocoon. So basically, what we are describing and what we're understanding is that when you are looking to bring forth something brand new, you have to compare it to giving birth to a child. Now, if you're a woman, you may have an experience with this, or you've spoken with someone who has experience with giving birth. If you're a man, you may have experience, but maybe you don't. So it's really kind of clear. Birthing requires a lot of work. First of all, the baby is in a cocoon, which is the mother's stomach, the mother's body, for a very long period of time, at least 9 months, right? And that's where the baby is gathering all the information, all the nutrients, all the things that are necessary for that baby to be brought into this world. Now, the same thing applies to you and I when we are trying to develop ourselves into a new being or a new person. We have to go into an area where we are receiving the most information, the most nutrients, the best quality of an environment so that we can then present ourselves as a new being or a new idea, product, or business to the world. So the birthing stage is just like what you have when you're in the mother's body. And then you have the actual birthing process, that very difficult process where it's hard to push the baby out and the baby's crying and there could be any wrong move that could cause destruction. That's the same thing that happens to you and I when we are in the process of becoming what we know that we can be, the best that we can be. There will be issues, there will be motivations from other people to stop the birthing, but that's when you have to have that grit that we talked about to push through. And then once you are out, those first stages, those days, those early moments of starting the new business, those early days of being off of probation, all those temptations of wanting to go back and do the same things that you've done before, the temptation to give up because you're still on probation or you still have to answer to somebody, some judge, and you're upset about it. Those are the things that may cause you to want to give up. But that's when you have to stay in the game. And remember, it's all a birthing process. Remember that you are becoming something new, someone new. The process is new. And because of that, you have to work even harder against everything that's going to try and slow you down. So, as we're talking about birthing, and being in a cocoon, we're talking about the fact that once you come out, you are a brand new being with brand new possibilities. So don't give up on yourself. Don't sell yourself short. Actually, go into the cocoon so that you can come out a better person. All right, in this last section of chapter 8, we're going to talk about the mentality that it takes to come out of every situation or every cocoon as the best possible person you can be. See, a lot of people wonder, what does attitude have to do with it? What does mentality have to do with it? Well, let's go back to the book. That was the question. What do you mean by the birthing stage was the first question. Then they wanted to know, well, what do you mean by mentality and why does it even matter? That was a question by Owen. Mentality matters because if you go into isolation full of negativity in your heart, that negativity will grow. See, it's just like the baby that we're talking about. When you go into isolation, when you go into the cocoon, whatever you are feeding that birthing stage, whatever you are feeding that infant, whatever you are feeding that new idea, that is going to grow. So it is so important that your mentality is one of success or one of acceptance, knowing that once you come out of this, you will be much better for it. So when you talk about why does my mentality matter? Well, your mentality matters. And in fact, not only does it matter, your mentality is everything to your success. Your mentality is everything to how you're going to make it out of your cocoon. So mentality is important. So we have to start shaping that positive mentality. Let's go back to what the book was saying. Again, it said, if you go into isolation with love and appreciation in your heart, those feelings will grow. While in isolation, your thoughts are creating your entire world. So that's my pitch. That's my sales pitch for you to go into this cocoon period of life, this rebirthing period of life, this expansion period of life with a positive attitude, one that is ready to take the world on and become the absolute best that you can be. You have a choice. You can go into these situations with negativity. You can go into these situations upset because you feel the world has let you down and that no one believes in you. My family let me down. The judge gave me a sentence. My parole or probation officer doesn't understand me, or I hate all police officers and they hate. That's your mentality. Then that's what you will birth. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times when there's nothing you can do about it. There are negative people, there are evil people, and no matter how positive you are, they will give you their mess, right? They will dump all over you. But we're not talking about those situations because they're not the everyday situations. Everyday situations are normal people with normal problems and normal attitudes. So that's why it's important for you as a cycle breaker to know that if you are fostering a positive mentality, you're going to gain positivity. If you're moving with a negative mentality, you will birth negativity. So, yes, your mentality is important. And you have to make sure that in that isolation, you are birthing positivity as opposed to the negativity that will destroy all the goals that you have for your life. Now, remember this. We talked about hurt people hurting people, and we talked about all the pains and all the difficulty of going through change. But I don't want that to discourage you. I want you to realize that once you go into a moment of isolation, Once you decide that you are going to change your life for the better, once you decide that you're going to be a cycle breaker and that you no longer want the same cycle of negativity, the same cycle of depression, the same cycle of going in and out of jail, the same cycle of getting a job, losing a job, it is time for you to stand up and say you want more for your life. And again, I don't care where you started, and I don't even care where you are right now, because as long as you are living, you have the power to change your life. So I submit to you that you can do it right now if you decide that you're going to be a cycle breaker. And part of that is taking this journey into isolation, taking this journey into what the book calls the cocoon, so that you can develop into the man or the woman that you want to be, so that you can develop into the person that you've always dreamed of becoming. It's right there. It's right within your grasp, but you have to do the work. The first step of the work, or at least the step that we're talking about today, is your ability to separate yourself from all the things that are pulling you in every direction in this world. All the temptations, all of the problems that other people have, they want you to enjoy or be a part of their problems. They want you to enjoy or be a part of their temptations. They want you to enjoy or be a part of their vices. But it's up to you to say, no, I am going to be a cycle breaker. And I'm starting today by separating myself from the crowd, separating myself from all of my own desires and temptations and shortcomings. I'm going to dive into this cocoon of isolation so that I can then birth the best person that I can be while in this cocoon, filling myself with positivity, filling myself with love, filling myself with the energy to keep going and taking my life to the next level. It is right there for you. And you've made the first step by tuning into this program. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we have for this week. We're talking about being cycle breakers, and more specifically, we are in the middle of the Cycle Breaker book by me, Judge Dawson. If you don't have the book, go to my website, www.judgedawson.com. Get you a copy. I'm telling you, there are some tools in that book that will transform your life from where you are to where you want to be. And that's what I want to see for you. I don't want you wrapped up in this legal system. I don't want you wrapped up in regret because you didn't live the best life that you could live. I don't want you wrapped up in bad relationships that you feel you can never get out of. The tools for success apply across the board, they're universal. So it doesn't matter if you're trying to start a new business or start your life over again after being incarcerated, it's all the same and it's all available to you because you are cycle breakers. All right, that's my session for today. Continue to be the best you can be, and I will talk to you soon.